While I make every effort to broadcast correct information, I'm also still learning. I will double check all my facts, but realize that healthcare is a constantly changing science and art. One doctor or healthcare provider may have a different way of doing things from another. I welcome any comments, suggestions, or correction of errors. I take no money from supplement or device companies. By listening to this podcast or reading this blog, you agree not to use this podcast or blog as medical advice or to treat any medical condition in either yourself or others, including but not limited to patients that you are treating. Consult your healthcare provider for any medical issues that you may be having. This entire disclaimer also applies to any guests or contributors to the podcast or the website. Under no circumstances shall any guests or contributors to the podcast or blog or any employees, associates, or affiliates of the Boss Body podcast be responsible for damages arising from use of the podcast or the blog. This blog or podcast should not be used in any legal capacity whatsoever, including but not limited to establishing the standard of care in a legal sense or as a basis for expert witness testimony. No guarantee is given regarding the accuracy of any statements or opinions made on the podcast or the blog. What's up, guys? It's Dr. Tim Jackson with another episode of the Boss Body Podcast. Biohacking, functional medicine, integrative medicine, wellness, complementary and alternative medicine. We have all these different fields and none of them talk to each other, which is interesting because that's the very thing we criticize traditional medicine for. You have a urologist, he doesn't communicate with the cardiologist doesn't communicate with the internal medicine doctor. So today I brought in an expert in biohacking, but he's also part of the movement or the founder of the movement of lifespanning and connecting all the biohacking and wellness communities. So welcome to the show, Mr. Jean Fallacara.
Thank you for having me, Tim. It's a great pleasure.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, thanks for being here. We know you're a super busy guy. How long have you been a part of this movement and what got you into it?
Well, I think that I've been into the biohacking without knowing it since I was born. The process of my life has always been to improve whatever I could. And more specifically, I would say improving the brain capacity. That was my goal as a kid. I was born with an advantage or a disadvantage with a high IQ. So it was a struggle when I was a kid, but it was a great superpower because I could learn about everything, anything in a super speedy manner, faster than anyone. But the downside of that was I got bored easily on many aspects, and I was always changing whatever I was doing and trying to do new things. And at the same time, as a kid, because I think it's related to the frontal cortex, I was taking a lot of risk in my life, skydiving, going, spending days and weeks in caves, speleology, dirt bike, name it, whatever. But it came down to pushing the limits, seeing how your body reacts, and then adjusting. And this is what biohacking is. They put a word on it to say we're hacking our biology. We're not hacking anything. We're just like optimizing whatever our body is capable of doing. And this is the beauty of humanity, is that we haven't yet reached the limit of the possibilities of what the human can do. Even in sports, I'm not young. I'm not old because I'm good to live up to 150 years. So I'm in the third part of my life, but I can do things that kids have difficulties to do, just because I know how to do it and how to improve the body to do it. And if I can do it, anyone can do it.
Absolutely. And so did you have any sort of health challenges
that inspired you early on in life or in young adulthood?
Yeah, that could have been a great story to tell, but the only challenge or challenges I was coping with, I was a hypersensitive kid. So up to the age of 12, 13, if you just look at me in a bad way, I would cry. If you raise the voice, I would cry. And on the top of what, I was a skinny guy, like literally very skinny and tiny. So bullied by buddies at the school. But muscles are some things, and brain is always superior. So I managed to take over, and drastically at the age of 17, I completely changed the way I was from the completely introvert and hypersensitive kid. I became a punk, but a punk of the movement, of the real movement punk, with a punk attitude and things. And that stayed in my life for the rest of my life. I'm still considering myself a punk today.
Awesome. Well, that's a great story. And the company that you had, that you sold, tell us a little bit about that and how that relates to what you're doing now.
So I've been a serial entrepreneur in my life. About 11 companies acquired, startup, merged, even lost, and sold. I sold for a huge amount of money a company a few years ago, but I was stupid enough at that time to buy another company for almost the same amount I cashed. So and put it public, but that was a great story, but I didn't make money out of it, to be honest. Not much, not as much as I could. And 2 years ago, I sold my biotech group, Z Science. That was in the manufacturing of refrigeration system. And the beauty of that is, like, this company was acquired during COVID, where the demand for vaccine freezers and refrigerator was the highest in the world. So I sold my company, went to Boston from Montreal to develop this business. And I went back to school, of course, because I need my brain to be busy. And I went back to the MIT to learn about artificial intelligence and virtual reality. The whole concept of this to bring us back to, in the run of these merger acquisition, I acquired the magazine Biohackers magazine. And for me, I looked at this magazine and I looked at what Dave Asprey was doing, for example, with the conferences and others in this field. And I was looking at these biohackers out there, always going against what I do love, because I'm coming from the same community, scientists. And I was looking at scientists like Andrew Huberman on the other side, bombarding every biohacker like he was the enemy of the planet. And I go like, what the hell is going on out there? Why these guys are not talking to each other? At the end of the day, the goal is exactly the same. Biohackers are trying to make a better life for everyone. And scientists like Andrew Huberman with his podcast, that is fantastic, is trying to help people to achieve better life. So why are they fighting? What's their problem? Is it just ego related or just misunderstanding? I'm a human believer. I think that the ego can take a certain place. So it was mainly misunderstanding. So my goal is to put them together at the same table, speak the same language, and maybe avoid those conflicts by saying, okay, guys, what can we do to make this world a better world? And have people that are supposed to live at least 125 or 150 years old getting close to that, but close to that in the greatest shape as possible, the autonomy they deserve to get there, not just like living for living, but being able to move, work out, feed yourself, talk, resonate, learn up to the end, if there is an end. So I looked at that and I said, it's time for a new word and a new revolution. And we came up with this invented word that doesn't exist yet. Now it does, lifespanning.
Yeah. So can you sort of operationally define what lifespanning is?
Yeah. So lifespanning is everything that is around improving lifespan. Lifespan is related to longevity, wellness, psychology, physiology, sports, medicine, name it, everything that is related to the human optimization globally, I would say.
Awesome. And you think you mentioned off air that you are working to bring together a conference, several days. Can you talk a little bit about that and what you hope to achieve with that?
Yes, we're setting up one of the biggest event in the world that will happen in Dubai in 2024, where not only the biohacking community will be, but the whole longevity and scientists can talk, have workshop, because it's going to happen outside in parks, in the park of Dubai, and can attend these things. And when the goal of this event is you're going to feel better when you leave the event, better than when you came in. So people
Absolutely.
will live with the greatest impression of their life, not like when you go to those conferences and you feel exhausted. Our goal is really to have these people coming back home motivated and say, I'm down, I'm going to take care of myself.
Yeah, absolutely. Where do you recommend? So someone's listening, they're new to biohacking, lifespanning. Where do you recommend they begin?
So waking up early and looking at the sun. There is no shortcut on that. You know what? This is the simplest and the oldest trick that people say it's a biohack. It's not even a biohack. It's a natural behavior linked to our circadian rhythm. So where do you start? Wake up with positive energy, not negative thought. First, you control your thought, okay? So when you wake up, don't stay in bed procrastinating or ruminating. Move out of your bed right away when you wake up. Take a bit of time to drink water first and get your butt outside.
And for people who live in A, cold climates, or B, places where it rains a lot, what can they do?
Doesn't matter. I lived in Canada for over 25 years. And even if it was in Celsius minus 40 outside, doesn't matter. You go outside. Okay, it's raining, but the sunlight, it's raining, it's cloudy. It's still the sunlight. It's still better than the lights you have at home. Worst case scenario, okay, you live on the North Pole where there is no sun, and it's 6 months a year where you cannot get outside. But let's pretend. Okay, in that case, maybe you can buy yourself some light stimulator. Could help, and work on your computer. If you work on your computer with that light on behind of it, don't try to avoid any blue light in the morning. It's a bad thing to do.
Gotcha. Don't try to avoid any artificial blue light or natural blue
Whatever
light.
the blue light it is, I think that in the morning, whatever the source of the blue light, even artificial, it's fine. You need it for your circadian rhythm.
Right.
In
Absolutely.
the afternoon and at night, it's a different story. Yeah.
Yeah. And in terms of mitochondrial health, so, a lot of people, they're getting diagnosed with chronic fatigue syndrome or this disorder, that disorder, mainly because they're not able to produce enough energy to heal. People think of energy as, oh, I'm going to go run a mile or I'm going to do 100 push-ups. But we need energy for detoxification, for thinking, talking. Obviously, the sunlight and the circadian rhythm is huge in terms of mitochondrial health. What are some other things that you like to implement or have people implement to help their mitochondria?
Okay, before going to supplements, because if you really want to help your mitochondria, NAD plus would be one of the best. But I before going into that direction, I think that if you start your day by having your water with hydrogen into it, it's a good start. You're going to stimulate more your metabolism and your mitochondria, and then when you get to do your clean stuff and brush your teeth and things like that, why don't you take a cold shower instead of just a regular shower? You're going to optimize a lot of your metabolism. And
Right.
yeah, it's simple thing, simple trick that are not expensive before you step into supplementation. Cold plunges, of course, but you need to have a cold plunge available. But cold shower, I think you can have it. Even in Miami, where the water is not cold, but you still can have a cold shower. It's not the cold shower in Boston or not even in Montreal, but it's a cold shower.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. I think optimizing those things, and then that'll make you more compliant. I've sort of developed or created a contract with myself over the years where, okay, yeah, I can buy this gadget or this toy, but only if I'm getting my morning sunlight, only if I'm getting my exercise, resistance training and walking, only if I'm eating 98% organic. And then I can add in the supplements. Because at the end of the day, I think a lot of people are trying to put more and more good stuff into their body, but they never get the bad stuff out, the
Right.
mycotoxins, the metals.
Yeah.
And obviously, that doesn't work, or you might get marginal benefits. Do you
Yeah.
see the same thing?
Yeah, you're gonna have, this is the problem of North America in particular. We're trying to find out what is the magic pill that avoids me to take a walk in the morning or do resistance training exercise or do a cold plunge. Do you have any pills that I can buy? I'm ready to pay for that. At the end of the day, what you're doing, you're getting an expensive pee because they're not even absorbed most of the time. You are under the feeling that you're doing something good for your body, but you're not doing anything, or not even good, because you're taking so many pills at the same time that the most of the effects are contradictory and they're not going in the right direction. So yeah, those things, like you said, walking, running, not running too much, but walking, resistance training, or just like training at least is good. Moving, they're
And
free stuff.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And how do you see this impacting the world of athletics? Like, we've known athletes, from 15 years ago who were sleeping in hyperbaric chambers, and people like Bill Romanowski, who was getting nutritional IVs at halftime. But now I know some teams like the Minnesota Vikings, they have a red light therapy room and the players rotate around. How do you see what you're doing impacting athletics?
We're getting better and better our everything we do. So the athletic performances of not only professional athletes, but even like amateur athletes, or like the people in the street that are training hard enough and they want to perform better. Today, you have a lot of gadgets that helps you to improve what you're doing. And at the end of the day, look at it very in a simple way. It's not just the physical performances if your brain is not aligned. So it starts from there. You can have all the red light therapy you want. If your brain is like under stress or oxidative stress, or ruminating, or negative thinking, you're not going to perform. Even if you're at the top shape in terms of muscles and the top mitochondria and energy and glycogen reserve and whatever, if your brain doesn't work, it doesn't work. You can try to optimize it. You can try to mobilize it. It's not going to be optimized. So you need first to have your brain aligned, and then you can improve your capacity by using those tools. Infrared therapy, even sound therapy, frequencies, vibration. I was part of this testing at that time, like 15 years ago, I think, or 12 years ago, halo neuro, transcranial direct stimulation, electrical stimulation to trigger neuroplasticity. That worked very well, but I was set for that. My mind was set for that. Today you have light stimulation that works very well as well, not just infrared, but lights. So we're getting to the point where if people are psychologically balanced, they can improve their performances. And the way to improve their performances is to use technologies. That has no shortcut. Like if you have one that is training, and it's that like the movie Rocky, the guy, the Russian guy was training with all the accessories and everything, and Rocky was like the old-fashioned way. So, but that's the thing. He had the mindset, of course, but you will never beat technology. Technology is the world of tomorrow, and now with artificial intelligence, machine learning can modelize the way that your workout will be optimized for you, not for another one, not generic, but just for you. So all these technologies combined with the development and technologies that are mainly recently developed, we're going to be very close to superhumans. That's what we call superhumans, but they're not. It's still humans with way more capacity than regular humans. But hopefully it's going to become a standard. This is kind of a dream. I would love to walk in the street, especially I live in Miami, but in the street of Orlando, no judgment, guys, but and don't see all these overweight people, but just see people that are fit. That would be a dream, because we would pay less taxes because our health system will not be at burden or under pressure. If people were taking care of their health, starting from their psychological health, the world of tomorrow, it's going to be a trail. It's going to be super cool.
Yeah, I just had Joe Cohen from Self Decode on the show this past week, and he's in Tel Aviv. Yeah, he's a great guy. He operates from a place of integrity and super smart guy. I've seen him evolve over the years. I've known him. I've never met him in person, but I've known him virtually since I think 2014. But he was saying in Tel Aviv, because I always see these videos of him on social media working out, and it looks like he's on Venice Beach, in California. And he said, no, but what's interesting is about 80% of the population in Tel Aviv, rough estimate, they work out. And I said, it's probably like 20% of Americans on average work out. I mean, all you need to stand out. I get all these looks when I walk into places, not because I'm like superhuman, but it's not hard to stand out from the morbidly obese if you have a little bit of muscle. And and that's not to throw anyone under the bus, but like we need to make what you and I do the norm, not weird stuff.
Exactly. Yeah. And the norm set the standard. You know what? Now that I think about it, it's probably one of the reasons I moved to Miami. I think that in Miami, 80% of the population work out.
Yeah. And I'm a big fan of, of the Stoics over the years. And, the Stoics, they trained physically, I mean, almost exclusively for the purpose of enhancing their mental capacity. Because they knew that real thinking required energy. And if they worked out, they would have more energy. And, I think that's a wonderful philosophy, and we should go back to some of those ancient concepts.
Absolutely. We know today that one of the best trigger for neuroplasticity, for years and years we've been talking, and that principle stayed, but it's not super accurate today, like um, about the neuron that you're not using and they're going to die. It's not really true, but we know that sport and exercise is a great trigger for neuroplasticity. Neuroplasticity is the best way to increase your capacity of learning. And the more you learn, the more you're going to memorize stuff. And the more you memorize, the more you're going to want to get and keep into that pattern, which becomes an addiction in some ways. But it's a great addiction. It's better to be addicted to learning and to these processes than junk food and potato chips and beer.
Right. Something you mentioned a minute ago about, in order to receive the benefits of biohacking, you need to have your mind aligned. What do you mean by that?
Well, it's because, many people today, they like to take shortcuts, and for your health, there's no shortcuts. You have to walk the walk and do the things that are appropriate to make sure that you're going to get there and stay there in shape. So one of the first thing is, are you mentally ready to take care of yourself? What is bothering you in your life? Are you always struggling with, negative thoughts every morning when you wake up? That impact that your ability to progress. And if your mind, of course, it's an easy thing. Everybody is concerned by their financial life, their couple life, personal life, their kids, their school, their job, whatsoever. But you have to remember one thing that is very important. The only things that you control today, it's the moment, your life today. And there's only two things that are 100% sure in your life, is taxes and debt. The rest, deal with it. So stop thinking about what is going to happen this afternoon, tomorrow, in a month, in a year. Live the moment and take it and align your mind to that and get ready. Yeah.
In terms of nutritional templates or constructs, is there any particular template that you follow?
Not really, because I think that the evolution of humans made us what we are today, meant to eat all sorts of food, meat, fish, vegetable things. Of course, don't go, that's my personal opinion, okay? Don't go too much on meat. I'm not a big carnivore. I'm more a guy that likes fish. But you have to remember that if you don't eat meat at all, for example, you're going to lack iron. And iron is a very important element for your blood, for your oxygenation, for so many aspects. So remember that we're coming from genetic evolution to where we are today. We're made to be filled and fueled with several elements that you cannot find in any type of diets that are out there. They're all unsustainable. Don't follow any diet, or if you do it just for a short period of time. And be careful on what you have. Fortunately enough, I've never been overweight, and I have no difficulties. Like I don't gain weight and I don't lose weight. I have the same weight for, I think, 24 years, and my body fat goes from 4 to 8. That's about it, and it stays there. But one thing I would recommend to everyone: intermittent fasting, because we human are not meant to have 4 meals a day. We're meant to have maybe 1, 2, It's not proven if it's 1 or 2, whatever, but we're meant to fast. And the fasting, this is probably the medicine of tomorrow. Recently, I've seen like a lot of publication and studies that have been done on not only intermittent fasting, but fasting in general, showing that some people went through cancer and they went through chemotherapy, radiotherapy, whatsoever, therapy that were like harsh on the body. When they stopped taking all these chemicals and they shifted to fasting, most of the cancer were gone. So I'm not that holistic to say, oh, treat your cancer by fasting. I wouldn't go to that extent, but I would say like, hey guys, there's hope there that shows us that we human are really meant to fast. And in a way or the other, if you go work out and you have a bit of weight to lose, don't go on the diet, just go empty stomach. You're going to lose fat. You're going to use fat as your fuel anyway. So it's going to be better than 10 days, 2 weeks or 3 weeks of diet. You do it for a week and you're going to lose way more fat. And it's not going to come back as if you were doing a diet.
Right. Yeah. And for people who want to do intermittent fasting, but they may not have the metabolic flexibility, how do you recommend people transitioning to it or building up to it?
Yeah, well, the easiest way to go on intermittent fasting, and one of the most successful intermittent fasting technique is the 16 hours fast. And to get there, you sleep 8 hours. So take that into consideration. It's 8 hours of the 16. You don't have to deal with it. Your mental is not there. It's off. Off in a way. So if you go on intermittent fasting, do the 16 if you can, and implement it by fasting at night. Cut your last meal at 6, 7 p.m. and don't eat before early afternoon the day after. And if you can, go work out in the morning because it's always the best for the brain. And it's not that harsh because you don't feel like the need for food that much. And you have all the benefits there. Right.
Absolutely. What gadgets, quote unquote gadgets, I think I see, is that a PEMF ring? Is that just a pillow? The red one. Yeah.
It's a cedar with my cat on it.
Oh, now I can see the cat, but I thought it was an amp coil machine, PMF device.
Yeah, those PMF devices are very interesting these days because we've been talking about PMF for a while without not knowing too much what's going on behind that. But now I see beds and things like that, or blanket covers. There's a lot to do and to study on that field as well, if we can say field.
Yeah. What do you personally like? What are your top 3 gadgets that you use?
My top 3 gadgets. I use infrared stimulation for my brain on a daily basis, almost. I use light stimulation as well. The Neurovisor is a killer machine. Like some people are going to microdosing and things like that, but you can have natural microdosing with light and sound without taking any substances. So those are definitely the 2 that are really part of my daily routine. And then I would balance in between my cold plunge and my red light therapy.
And do you have a cold plunge tub?
Yeah, I'm fortunate enough to live in a building where we have a big cold plunge tub that is at 36 degrees.
The building has a cold plunge tub?
Yeah.
Is it a biohacking building?
It's going to turn to be a biohacking building soon.
Oh, I need to move into that building.
No. Yeah, it's the Icon. So we have a very nice spa here with hot tub, cold plunges, sauna, what's the name of humid sauna as well,
Steam
the
sauna.
hammam, steam, yeah, everything. And and lucky enough is on the same floor as me, so I just have to cross my door, walk 30 feet and be there. So yeah, those are my favorite one. Infrared, I love it. Despite you can have the infrared stimulation from the sun most of the time, but be careful. So outside of that, it's my favorite. And one that is not considered as a gadget, but it's definitely a great tool for the brain, music.
Yeah. And are you referring to, say, the solfeggio frequencies or hertz?
I'm not, you know what? For years and years and years, I've been wearing trackers, biofeedback, paying attention to all frequencies and exposure that we could have protection against this and this and this. Today, I have no trackers, referring to Ura or whatever. I know myself so well, and this is very pretentious what I'm saying, okay? I know myself so well that I can tell you if I miss one element in my blood. And that happened, like, I do IV therapies every 2-3 weeks. And I was coming from a flight from Seattle, and I was just like, damn, I feel like some taste of metal that I don't like. And I do blood tests every month. And I was convinced that I was missing iron in my blood. That was a fact.
Wow.
I've been learning about myself for so long that honestly, today I can tell you how I feel on the each point of my body, and I'm doing calisthenics, so I know every single muscle of my body that I control. But if I stay 45 minutes in the cold water, I'm capable of matching the wave and the frequencies of the music with the frequencies of my thermoreceptors on my skin. And this is how I keep my focus to stay in the water.
That's incredible. Out of all the things you've learned, like it sounds like you're a lifelong learner for sure, to say the least. What's something or two things that you know today that you wish you would have known 10, maybe 12 years ago?
Yeah. I would say, a bit more than 10 years ago, I would have loved to know how to meditate. I had ADHD my whole life, so for me, it was a freaking struggle to go on meditation. And I tried everything from, like, even when I was 15, 17, I tried yoga, meditation, everything like that. I never made it. But yeah, recently, maybe 12 years ago, I started to put a different way and perspective. And meditation is really a part of who I am today. From the guy that was really struggling with ADHD, I can sit outside for 2 hours without music, without words, without talking to anybody, without even moving, and just be with myself. I could never dream about the ability to do that before, but today I'll do it as much as I can. Every time I have like an hour, 30 minutes, 2 hours, even more of time that I want to be with me, just for me. This is what I do. And I wish I could have had this capability younger. I would be way better today and have more compassion and probably empathy for a lot of things. You learn.
Absolutely.
That's the beauty of getting older.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we're going to put up all your links so people can follow you on social media and go to your website. Keep up the great work. Thank you for the work that you're doing. And hopefully we can have you back on in the future to get an update. And if you're not in the cold tub in your building,
Yeah.
if it goes missing, I might have had something to do with it.
Okay, it's gonna be big work. Thank
There
you
you
for
go.
having me. Yeah.
Thank you.